Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Late the W podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mahal. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, all of that fantastic jazz. If it's your first time joining, make sure you follow on social media at Late the W pod on all of that. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we're active on all of those. So, without further ado, let's sound the horn and get into this episode.
The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on and lined down the left field line for a base hit. Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and busted grandma. It is grand salami time.
And will send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
One more sleep. One more sleep is all that's left from us in opening day for the 2026 Seattle Mariners season. This releases Wednesday, March 25th, bright and early, 7 a.m. in the morning. I'm recording this Tuesday, March 24th, 9:40 p.m. And we are just about there. We are just about there. The first game of the 2026 MLB season is tomorrow, or today when this releases. I couldn't be more excited. Jeff and I are going to do a full Mariners preview show on opening day. Planning to record that 9:30-ish in the morning. Have that out by noon at the very latest. On opening day. On Thursday. And depending what's going on, might try and do a post-game show for opening day. I'll be there Friday night. Out in right field. Gonna be a blast. I'm more than excited. But today we are talking about the Seattle Mariners bullpen. We're talking about the core four. We're talking about the next tier. We're talking about some of those guys that could come out and make an impact. But for the majority of this episode, we are going to focus on 5 guys. Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, Jose Ferrer, Edward Bizardo, and Gabe Spire. Those 5 guys are the core of this bullpen, and this bullpen is crucial for making this Mariners team go. So as we start episode 133, let's start there. What makes this bullpen so crucial for this Mariners team? Well, it might be less crucial than it's been in the 2022-2023 seasons when this team wasn't scoring a whole lot of runs. This lineup for the Mariners feels like it has the ability to go out and score runs. And if you get starting pitching bounce backs from Gilbert, Kirby, Miller, and you get a repeat of what was a dominant 2025 season for Brian Wu, and you get a solid Luis Castillo, even what he was last year, that's totally fine. Then this bullpen ideally won't have to cover as many innings as it did a year ago. I mean, you just look at the innings that guys threw last year. Out of the bullpen, Munoz, 62 1/3. Brash, 47 1/3. Bizardo, 78 2/3. Spire, 62 innings. Vargas, 77 innings. The bullpen covered a lot of slack for the Seattle Mariners ball club. And for a rotation that struggled to make it through 6, through 5, through major portions of the season, The bullpen had to pick up those innings in order to get this team to 90 wins. And you hope that that's not going to be the same case in this 2026 season, but you need this bullpen to be good. You need to be able to hold 1-2 run leads. Because for this era of Mariners baseball, when they are at their best, they are winning 1-run games, causing chaos, letting the bullpen lock it down, throw 3-4 scoreless, dominant innings. 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row that allow you to win series, allow you to sweep series. And that doesn't start in May. That doesn't start in June. That starts on Thursday, March 26th. From game 1 to game 162 and beyond, this bullpen is crucial. If the Mariners had Jose Ferreira a year ago, are they in the World Series? If they had a healthy Brash 2 years ago, are they in the postseason? Ultimately, does in some senses feel like this bullpen is what makes this team go. And they are going to need guys that threw a lot of innings last year to be able to stay healthy and be able to cover innings again. And that's a big ask. That really, really is. And let's start with a guy that threw a lot of innings. Let's start with Andres Munoz, who was really dominant, especially early last year. Best season of this guy's career, though. A guy that in the first half of the season, opponents hit 148 against him. A whip under 1 in the first half. A FIP of 2.27. An ERA at 1.5 through 36 innings in the first half. He threw 15 innings in March and April and didn't give up a run. He gave up just 5 hits, not a singular extra base hit. He gave up 1 extra base hit through the end of July last season. And then fatigue started to wear in. And he gave up 4 doubles in August, a pair of doubles in September and October. But this guy is one of the best in baseball at what he does. One of the very best. 38 saves last season for Andres Munoz. 38 saves. So yeah, you could say he's a decent player. You could make that argument. He was 3rd in saves in baseball, behind just Robert Suarez and Carlos Estevez. I think you feel pretty good with that guy closing out games for you in 2026. Now, he's thrown a ton of innings over the past 4 years. 65 innings in 2022, 49 in 2023, 59 in a third in 2024, and 62 in a third in 2025. And most importantly, you're going to have to build this guy up slowly this year. And you hope that you're not going to have to use him at a super large extent through this first month, 2 months of the season. Because while he threw a lot of innings and was dominant through March and April, that first month of the season where he threw 15 innings was the most of any month last year. And was just 1 inning less than May and June combined. He threw 31 innings through the end of June, through the first 3 months of the season. He threw 22 through July and August, and then 9 in September and October. You need this guy at his best to win ball games. That's just how it is. So you need Andres Munoz healthy. And when he's healthy, he is as good as anybody. 93rd percentile expected ERA. 95th expected batting average. Averaged 98 over that on his fastball. Average exit velocity, the 94th. Whiff percentage, 98th. Strikeout percentage, the 96th. Barrel percentage, the 79th. Ground ball percentage, the 87th. And when you're combining elite ground ball rate with an elite strikeout rate, good things are going to happen. He mostly threw his slider last year. This is a slider that is a ton of break. It is filthy. Above average, both horizontally and vertically with its movement. The 4-seam plays almost like a sinker, almost like a 2-seam, with some run to the arm side on it. 3/4 release. Also has a sinker and a changeup. Doesn't throw them all that much, sparingly. Would be the word I would use. He used that sinker less than he did in 2024. It was a heavy slider fast 4-seam mix for this guy. And that's who he's been throughout the course of his career. Mostly a slider guy, and mostly a slider 4-seam combo. Those two pitches accounted for 85% of the pitches he threw last year. But even with that two-pitch-ish mix, he is a freaking dog. A freaking dog. It's because of that slider. A run value of 15 last year. Opponents hit 109, 133 slug against that. 51% whiff rate on it. Just a 25% hard hit rate against it. It's nasty. It is absolutely freaking nasty. And it's what makes him so good. It really is. And when he's able to locate his pitches, he is virtually unhittable. He dealt with some walk issues last year. The 11th percentile in walk rate. He's kind of been that way throughout his career, too. He will walk his guys outside of the 2022 season. But combining, like I said, the ground ball rate with the strikeout rate, he is dominant. 1.73 ERA last year. A 103 whip. 83 strikeouts and 62 1/3 innings. Will he make changes with that arsenal? Will he use that changeup a little bit more? He didn't throw it much at all last year. Only threw 22 the entire year. Just 22 changeups through 62 1/3 innings. But opponents didn't have a hit against it. They whiffed 44% of the time against it. Profile-wise, it was filthy. It's just about, can you command that? Do you feel confident in it? Do you feel comfortable in it? And if he adds that and feels comfortable and confident in it, You're talking about a guy that goes from being already a top, easily 3 closer in baseball to, oh, he's that fucking guy. 27 years old, under control for a few more years. And Mariners cooked with that contract, by the way, if you didn't realize. Club options in 27 and 28. And what a trade to bring him in. Austin Nola trade continues to just pay dividends. It really does. I mean, Ty France was in that trade. Taylor Trobell was in that trade. Luis Torrens was in that trade. And most importantly, Andres Munoz was in that trade. Yeah, I would argue that was a pretty good trade for Mr. Jerry. Pretty damn good trade. And maybe if the Padres hadn't traded him, they would still have that kid. What's his name? Leo DeVries? Leo DeVries? Yeah, maybe he would still be a Padre. Or because as it stands right now, he's in Sacramento with the A's. And Andres Munoz is in Seattle dominating in the 9th inning. And most importantly, build up his workload, make sure he's healthy. Because if you have this guy at his very best down the stretch, for the first time really in his career, if he's able to be there at his best at that point in the season, whoo, watch out. American League should watch out. Next guy we're going to talk about is Matt Brash. Matt Brash, elbow surgery 2 years ago. Last year was his first year back. He came back in the middle of May. And he was good. He was very good. I mean, a 2.47 ERA and 47 in a third innings with a FIP of basically 3. As always, he'll walk his guys. But even that was the lowest of his career. It was a pretty good year for Matt Brash, you must say. But it wasn't what 2023 Matt Brash was like. He wasn't just as dominant like he was that season. Not quite. But he was in his first year back from the devious TJ in elbow surgery. And that second year back is where you really start to find your groove. And if Matt Brash really starts to find his groove, well, you got 2 of the best relievers in baseball at the back of your bullpen. If you don't already. I mean, if you go look at his Savant page, bright red in everything, except for that walk percentage, which is blue, but it's not disastrously so. Now, Brash's big pitch, just like Munoz, is the slider. But it is a different profile from Munoz. It is one that moves heavy horizontally. It's a sweeper, basically. And he'll mix it up a little bit more. He also has a sinker. He has a changeup that I wouldn't be surprised if he used that a little bit more, especially against left-handed hitters. And maybe he's going to use that four-seam fastball a little bit more in 2025. He used that 34% of the time in 2023. And it was good. But in 2025, he worked that ground ball rate up using the sinker. Now, how do you combine those 2 seasons? How do you combine using the sinker to get your ground balls in situations where you need the ground ball and using the four-seamer in situations where you might need a strikeout, where you need a whiff? It's not like the four-seamer was bad. by any means last year. I mean, opponents hit 375 against it, but he only threw it 41 times. And there was an extra base hit against it. Opponents hit 346 against it in 2023, but the expected numbers were a lot better. And it allowed you really to dominate the league. And if you tunnel that with your sinker, both those pitches are going to play better naturally because of that. So as you look at the 2026 version of Matt Brash, when he comes up and when he pitches for the first time, probably Thursday, maybe Friday, I think it's going to be interesting to pay attention to. And it's something we're going to update throughout the course of this first month or two. How much is he using these pitches? He threw 61% slider last year. 61% of the time. 6 of every 10 pitches. 3 of every 5 pitches were the slider. 3 of every 5 pitches to hitters were sliders. And they still couldn't do damage against it. Because it is just disgusting. So if you're telling me he goes and throws the slider 50% of the time, he throws the sinker 18% of the time. He goes and throws the four-seamer 15% of the time. The changeup sits 15% of the time. I mean, I would not be shocked. It would make sense. And the more you use the four-seam, the more you use the sinker, especially the four-seam, though, the more the changeup is going to tunnel. And if you can tunnel all 4 of those pitches, which you should be able to do, I don't see why not, then it's just going to make you even harder to hit. And maybe with the four-seam fastball, one of the things that he didn't want to use it last year as much of because he averaged under 96 miles an hour. In 2023, he averaged 98 on it. Well, that second year back from Tommy John, from elbow surgery, that's when the velocity starts to fully come back. When you start to see more 98, 99s back out of Matt Brash, hopefully. And if you're seeing more 98, 99s out of Brash, you're probably going to see more of that four-seam fastball. And again, with the results he got from the sinker and the results he got from the changeup, imagine what he can do if he can take those and say, well, I can also just go throw my four-seam as if it's a new pitch in there. Well, now we're frickin' talking. Now we are frickin' talking. I'm really, really excited for what Matt Brash can do this season. Because I fully believe that this guy could be the most dominant reliever in that bullpen, even more so than Munoz. Because I just, there's something about Matt Brash that is just disgusting. And when Matt Brash is at his very best, he is so fun to watch. So fun to watch. So those are the first 2 righties out of the Mariners bullpen. The next one would be Edward Bizardo, very likely. But let's go to the left side of the bump. Let's go look at some southpaws. And let's start with Gabe Spire. Gabe Spire pitched for Team USA. Was really good last year. Was really good 3 years ago. Dealt with injuries and fatigue 2 years ago, which you hope won't creep in this year. Hopefully he's not a, odd year guy. But this guy last year was crucial for the Mariners. He was the guy that broke out and was just massive and just changed the trajectory of this team in the bullpen. A 2.6 ERA last year. Put up over 1.5 in FWAR, if that's something you care about. Pitched 62 on the dot innings. Whip was under 1. 0.87 whip. Opponents hit under 200 against him. 33, nearly 34% strikeout rate with just a 4.5% walk rate. I mean, this guy was really freaking good. Really freaking good. And that 7, 8, 9 in your Mariners bullpen of the three guys that we have now talked about is utterly disgusting. And they need more help back there. They do. The left-handed hitters against Spire last year, just 7 extra base hits the entire season in 29 and third innings. They hit 179, 214, 302 against him. Whip 072. FIP 211. 37% strikeout rate. 37.5% strikeout rate against left-handed hitters for Gabe Spire last year. The Savant page is fun AF. 97th walk, 96th strikeout, 88th whiff, 98th chase. And the pitch mix that we've talked about with the other two guys, that four seam, that sinker, that slider, well, welcome to Gabe Spire, but from the left side. It's a four-seamer, it's a sinker, and it's a slider. The slider, the only one that strays a little bit from the norm of what these pitches are going to look like in terms of what is the break, what is the movement, what is the profile of this pitch. The slider is the only one that's a little bit different with some additional horizontal compared to the average. He's a damn good pitcher, y'all. He is a damn good pitcher. Opponents hit just 164 against the four-seamer, just 149 against the slider. Hoping to get ground balls with the sinker. This Mariners bullpen is quite good. It's quite good to say the least. And it's mostly because of these three guys that we have talked about. These three guys run that bullpen. These three guys dominate that bullpen. Spire will be 31 this year. Really was a breakout player last year. Was good in 2023 as well. But was a different level of good in 2025. And he's another guy. All of these guys you're going to have to be careful with. You're going to have to keep them healthy. And that's why you just need to keep stockpiling bullpen arms. You need to keep getting guys that take a flyer on this guy. See what he can bring you. That's why you brought in Jose Ferrer. But Spire's bread and butter is that four-seamer. Like I said, opponents hit just 164 against it, slugged 300 against it. 43% strikeout rate, 33% whiff rate. That's a third of the time. So you expect that elite fastball from him. And when you compare that with the sinker and with the slider that he has, that's what makes him really good. That's what makes him so good. He's going to be your first lefty out of the bullpen, at least at the start of the year. And you need this guy to be good. You need this back end of the bullpen to remain steady for this team. Because it hasn't been steady for 2 years in a row over the past 3 years. And that's not how bullpens really work. But you need continuity from 2025 to 2026 in performance from these guys. Because if one of these three guys takes a step back or gets hurt, that changes what this team can do. the ceiling and the floor that I talked about last episode, well, an injury to one of these top 3 or 4 bullpen guys changes that in a very big way. Before the deadline last year, I talked a ton about how the Mariners just need to add to this bullpen because this bullpen, they need them to be able to shut down games. Well, they added Jose Ferrer of the offseason, but you still need more. And come the deadline, you can book it now. They are going to need a high leverage reliever. They are going to need a guy that can pitch in the 7th or 8th inning and that can help them bridge it from starters to these guys. Or that can allow one of these guys to be the bridge. That can allow the fireman, Matt Brash, to go back to that fireman role of coming in when the starter gets in trouble in the 6th inning, putting out that fire, and then he hands it to the rest of these guys. Then he hands it to Gabe Spire in the 7th. And then you go Ferrer or whoever in the 8th. And then you go Munoz in the 9th. You need a few more guys because you're not going to be able to do that every game. For the most part, as it stands right now, your 7, 8, 9 is going to be Spire, Brash, depending on which one works better for Spire as the lefty, and then Munoz. That's how it looks right now. And you're going to need help back there. Now, the help you brought in this offseason is nothing to balk at. Nothing to balk at. Jose A. Ferrer is a pretty damn good reliever and has a very high ceiling. Has the opportunity and the ability to dominate. 26 years old. This guy threw 76 and a third innings last year. You're going to have to be careful with him. That is a ton of innings, a ton of pitches. But he was damn good. He was real damn good, y'all. He's going to be pitching his home games now in T-Mobile Park, where guys go and shine on the pitching side. Against lefties, this guy was unhittable. Opponents hit under 200 against him. A 217 on base, a 304 slug. If that sounds familiar, that's pretty much what Gabe Spire was against lefties. And if Ferrer can get the ability to face righties better and do better against righties, then now we're talking. You talk about home and away splits. Well, Jose Ferrer had a 2.57 ERA away from home last year. At home, he had a 6.82. If he's playing those home games at T-Mobile Park and those 34 and a third innings that he pitched at Nationals Park or in Seattle, and say he puts up a 1.75 ERA, let alone a 2 or 2.57, this guy would show just how dominant he freaking is. Away from Nationals Park last year against lefties, they hit 173 against him. A 269 slug. Right-handed hitters only hit 277, 333, 376 away from Nationals Park against him. That is completely reasonable. He gave up just one home run to righties away on the road. That is fine. And he's not a guy that's going to give up a ton of home runs anyway. But you take that every day of the week. This also was a guy that shined in high leverage situations. Opponents hit 239, 276, 337 against him in those situations. The strikeout rate went up to 28% in high leverage situations with the walk rate at just 2. That whip under 1. The FIP under 2.5. So yeah, is this a guy that shines when the lights are the brightest? It damn seems like it. And Jason Churchill is as high as anyone on Jose Ferrer. Because not only does Ferrer have numbers when you look under just the very, very base that back up that he's a good player, his stuff is nasty. His stuff is just disgusting. It's a sinker changeup four seam slider combo. Mostly it's a sinker changeup combo. And when you're using a changeup as a lefty, you should think like, why are right-handed hitters not doing worse against me? Why are they not? The pitch mix is great. The changeup moves a ton. The sinker moves a ton. He throws that sinker on average 97.5 miles an hour with the ability to touch 99, 100. He got a 47% whiff rate on the changeup last year. 47. He had a 52 on the slider. He only threw the slider 90 times. The Mariners are going to make him use that more. I guarantee that. Guarantee it. They're going to be like, bring out that slider a little bit more, bring out the four-seamer a little bit more. Allow that to maybe do some damage for you, or just scrap the four-seamer because it got hit pretty hard last year. But they're going to be like, use that slider. And if he's a slider changeup sinker combo, this league should watch out. Watch out. Run value of 8 with the sinker both the last 2 years. If you can't tell, I like Jose Ferrer quite a bit. Quite a bit. I'm excited to watch this guy in Mariners uniform. I think he's going to be really good. The rest of the bullpen, we're not going to dig too far into. Edward Bizzardo had a breakout season last year. And that's a guy that you need to be able to repeat something close to that. He posted a 2.52 last year. In 78 and 2/3 innings. He feels like a type of guy, though. It's going to be difficult to keep him healthy, to say the least. But you really need to. The last few spots in the bullpen going to be Vargas, Cooper Criswell, and one of Casey Legumina. Or Josver Zulueta. And it doesn't really matter who those last few guys are in the bullpen on opening day because they will switch. They will change. Spire, when he broke out in 2023, was not on the opening day roster. Paul Sewald, when he broke out in, 21? He was not on the opening day roster. He came up on the same day as a guy named Jared Kelnick and that one guy named Logan Walter Gilbert. So, yeah, there will be guys that come up from AAA, and if you hit on one of those guys alongside Munoz, Brash, Ferrer, Spire, Bizzardo. Yeah, now we're talking. Cooper Criswell is a guy that can cover multiple innings, almost like a bulk guy. Multi-inning reliever. He's going to be starter depth as well. Almost like a long man back there. Be able to piggyback Emerson Hancock potentially. This is a fun team. This is a fun bullpen. I'm having a blast talking about it. And we'll be back to talk about it Thursday morning, Jeff and I, as we preview this whole season, as we get ready for all of what this team is going to do in 2026. It really feels like it could be a massive year in Mariners history, as was last year. Let's continue the fun. Let's continue the ride. Till Thursday. Till opening day. I've been Mahal Domingo Anderson. Thank you for joining me on episode 133 of the Light the W pod. Go Imps. Peace.